afternoon. Good to have you aboard Restoring Little Girl. This is a special edition. What we're going to be doing today is actually trying to make amends. When I named my last video, what did I name it? I see. Prepping for solo. I got 184 something hits, and I know what guys were looking for. They're thinking that I'm going to give some words of wisdom about sailing solo, and unfortunately, what it really was about was just making that one part, that over/under, fair lead. And so it kind of came off as not exactly what people thought it was, I guess. So what we are going to do today is talk about the whole idea of prepping for solo. And I mean really prepping for solo. Preparing to sail solo is something that kind of comes in different phases, different parts. One of the parts right off the bat is experience, practice. There's nothing that's going to give you that until you just get out and do it. I'm trying to remember what I just wrote down a quote this morning from somebody that had done their solo sailing for the first time. Said this person said, at some point you just have to leave your comfort zone and go for it. I said, yeah, exactly, and that's a lot of what it is. Well, I've been sailing with my brother now for over 30 years, aboard his boat, and now I've got my own. And during that time, I've just, basically he's been the captain, but I know how to run everything. I can sail the boat solo pretty much as well as he can, and I've done that with him on board. In other words, I was at the controls all the way. But a lot of learning to sail solo is just getting some experience with somebody, being second, getting the jib up, getting the main up, taking the tiller when you need to, learning to control engine, all this kind of stuff. All that experience is a part of getting to the point of being able to do solo. But another part too, though, is just being inspiring yourself with reading, and do a lot of reading about guys that have done so, girls that have done so, and there's some awesome some awesome books out there about this topic. And I'm going to share with you 3 of them that I've got here with me. I brought them to the Cape just so I could do this. The first one is called Tinkerbell. It's about Robert Manry back in 1965. I mean, that's when his voyage started. He was a newspaper man at one of the Cleveland newspapers, and he was supposed to sail across from the Atlantic, sail across the Atlantic to England with some buddies of his. They had a big boat. They're all going to go in together. Well, one by one, they all backed out. Meanwhile, what Robert had done was he bought himself, for the family, he bought a little 13.5-foot Old Town lap-strake sailboat. And the seams were splitting apart. It was a mess. But he fixed it all up. And, went on outings with his family, did some overnights and anchoring out and that kind of thing. Well, anyway, as his buddies backed out one by one, he decided, you know what? I'm going to go. And I won't tell you the rest of the story, but it's an awesome, awesome story. And you really need to take a look at this book. It's called Tinkerbell. And I've read it so many times over the years that you just got to get a copy of it. It's available on Kindle. I think it's about $8 or something like that. Really, really worth the read. I mean, it is just awesome, awesome stuff. And by the way, this is long before GPS, and GPS might have been around, I'm not sure, but in 1965 when he sailed across, basically he got out there on the Atlantic and he's all by his lonesome in a 13.5-foot sailboat. And read the book. Awesome, inspiring, just uplifting, so cool, and especially in this day and time when there's just a whole lot of garbage going down. Okay, so Tinkerbell, awesome book. Another book that I've read, and again, very inspiring, in a kind of a different way. It's called Lone Voyager. And this guy is writing about a guy named Howard Blackburn, who is a Gloucester fisherman. And he and his dory mate, and I won't tell you all the details, and it's not what I'm going to tell you that's inspiring, it's what comes after this, okay? But he and his dory mate were out fishing off the Grand Banks up around Newfoundland or something like that, and a blizzard came up, and he and his dory mate got separated from the mothership and left behind. And it was snowing and cold, and ultimately his dory mate died of exposure. And Howard Blackburn rowed for 5 days before he finally got to the shores. And during that time, his hands were like claws, frozen to the oars. And I'm not even going to say any more than that. You can guess what's coming. But I'll tell you what, truly an inspiring tale because of not that, which is pretty horrendous, but what he accomplished after that. And so just another great book, very inspiring, very just awesome. And one that I'm going to mention here that I don't have is Robin Knox Johnson, that I've read that book a couple of times. By the way, I've read Robert Manry, the Tinkerbell, probably 5 or 6 times. I've read Lone Voyager at least twice. And this final one I've probably read at least 5 times. Robert Knox Johnson is, this is the one I read twice, is A World of My Own. Another great book. Inspirational, and it's the kind of stuff that makes you willing or wanting to be able to go and sail solo on your own. Maybe not sail around the world, maybe not, across the Atlantic, but be willing to just get up and go and use the experience that you have and sail the waters and do it on your own. Really cool stuff. Okay, the last one I want to talk about, and I finally bought this book because I've read it so many times on Kindle. But this is awesome. Sailing Alone Around the World with Joshua Slocum. Amazing man. As a matter of fact, many years ago, they had a copy of Randy. His boat, and I'm blanking out. I can't believe it. Randy. Anyway, they had a copy of his boat. There are probably a zillion copies of his boat out here. The Spray. There it is. The Spray, and they had a copy of it down at Hyannis Harbor, and so we went for a sail on it one day. You're just a passenger on it, but it was really cool to go out because I'd already read the book probably 2 or 3 times at that point. Read the book, and when you read it once, you want to read it again. It's so good. Joshua Slocum, the first guy to solo circumnavigate the world back in 1868, I believe. No, maybe, I guess it was later than that. No, he was born in 68. But anyway, read the book. Awesome stuff. Joshua Slocum aboard his book. I just did it again. Anyway, Randy. Right, The Spray. Aboard his book. Boy, I got mind brain damage here. Aboard his book, his boat Spray. Really awesome reading. So you need to do that. So anyway, all of these are things that kind of inspired me and made me want to do solo, that kind of thing. But really the main one right up front was Robert Manry's book on Tinkerbell. Because he sailed from Falmouth, Massachusetts, which I know Falmouth like the back of my hand. I went to high school in Falmouth for 1 year. Have lived on the Cape for many years. And during the wintertime, I used to walk around Falmouth Harbor. That was my thing, But anyway, he sailed from Falmouth, Massachusetts to Falmouth, England, and solo aboard Tinkerbell. Well, I had the idea when I started thinking about having my own boat, which I have now, of going from Falmouth, Massachusetts to Falmouth, Maine. You know, and again, doing it solo. But I'll tell you what, you got to have the courage and the willingness to just do it. Haven't done it yet, but this has just been my first year of getting little girl in the water. So anyway, I just want to use that as kind of a let you know that these are some books, and there are many others that you can use to read to inspire yourself to want to do solo work. Another thing you can do these days, and especially in the modern age of computers and so forth, is check out some of the YouTubes that are out there, and they are prolific with a lot of solo sailors. And I'm going to just tell you about a few that I go to. Let me see, where did I put my list? Yeah, okay. All right, first one, How to Sail Oceans with Kevin, I can't remember his last name. It's not Bisbee, but anyway, Kevin. And he just got done sailing across to Europe, and now he's back, not stateside, but I think he's down in the Caribbean someplace. But really good, because he is in his gaff rig cutter. Beautiful boat. It's fiberglass, but everything else about that boat is completely traditional. The sails, everything about it just feels so original, so really. I love gaffers anyway, but this gaff rig cutter is just a thing of beauty. The Ruth Avery, I think, is the name of the boat. So anyway, that's one. Another one is Holly, and she's doing, let's see, what is the name of it? Wind Hippie Sailing. And Holly was raised on the water by parents sailing around the world. And another awesome sailor. She's just born to it, literally almost. Another one. I'm going to do one last year that I want to talk about. But Adventures of an Old Sea Dog by Barry Perrins. Great stuff. I've been following him ever since he left England. See, what's the other one? I got one more here. Oh, Sam Holmes Sailing. He's a young man, and this kid is he's an adult, but I mean, he's a young man. He's intrepid. Nothing scares him. Nothing rattles him. He just gets out there and sails. He's sailed all over the place, and really worth watching. Sam Holmes Sailing. The last one I want to talk about, and I can really identify with this maybe a little more, is Roger Barnes, and he's an Englishman, and he sails his wonderful his wonderful dinghy. I think it's a lugger sail, but anyway, just a really awesome sailor, and he sails all over the place, and in England, in France, just really a wonderful guide. And the reason it's so good is because you're watching everything in its most basic form in terms of getting sail up and handling anchoring out. All the aspects of it are kind of reduced size-wise, but extremely efficiently. This man just knows it. He literally wrote the book on dinghy sailing. And when I say dinghy, I'm not talking about an 8-footer. I think it's more like a 16 or something like that. It's just phenomenal sailor. Really worth checking out his videos. It's just called Roger. Is there more to the title? No, I think it's just Roger Barnes, and it's a sailing video about him sailing his dinghy. Those are some things I think will really help, not only to inspire you, but to educate you, because you watch these guys on video doing this, not just reading it in a book. You can watch them and see what they do, see how they handle anchoring out, see how they handle having to deal with fickle winds or a jibe or whatever it might be. So it's just really something I think you'd get a lot out of. And like I said, there's a truckload more out there than what I've just mentioned here. One of the last things I would say is that when you go to deciding what to do, in terms of sailing solo. I'm just going by my own experience and what I'm about to do this summer, and that's go small. Go small. Set a doable challenge that I'm going to, for myself, it's going to be to come off the mooring in Cotuit Harbor and sail for the most part. I have a motor, but I mean to sail out of Cotuit Harbor out onto Nantucket Sound, to sail southwest to what is it, Waquaket, and is it Waquaket? I think it is. Anyway, to beautiful, huge inland bay, and to anchor out there. There's a wonderful island that you can anchor out from, and I've already been told by the what do you call it, the town harbor master, that I'd be more than welcome to anchor out there for as long as I want to. And so that's one of my, well, that is a goal, the main goal really for next summer, is to spend some time going solo and going from Cotuit over to Waquaket, and is it Waquaket? Anyway, I'll let you know. I'll write it out, and do some anchoring out and some cruising, and then come on back. It's a very doable thing, very doable distance, and I just hope that you'll kind of take some of these ideas and run with them, and enjoy. Learn to sail solo. Oh, one last thing. Okay. I just ordered 2 books, and let me tell you about them, because I think there's something that you might want to order for yourself. One is by a guy named Tristan Jones, who is a very, very well-known sailor, and the book is called One Hand for Yourself, One for the Ship. And it's about solo sailing, so, single-handing, great book. I haven't read it yet, but I've ordered it, and I'm got that one coming in. One last thing, and it's called Stress-Free Sailing, Single and Short-Handed Techniques. And it's all about handling mooring, coming on and off anchor, getting your sails up. It's very, very practical. Those 2 things. One is called One Hand for Yourself, One for the Ship. The other is Stress-Free Sailing, Single and Short-Handed Techniques. Try it. Order it. Study it. And you'll find that wintertime is not only an awesome time to be working on your boat because it's not in the water, it's an awesome time to study and prepare yourself for the single-handing, for getting out there and doing the solo thing, the thing that you've longed for. And just be brave. Have that courage to say, you know what, I can do this. And like I said, I want to do that quote again by that young woman. I can't remember what the name of her video was, but here's her quote. At some point, you just have to leave your comfort zone and go for it. Yeah. That's an awesome saying. Well, listen, I wish you well. This has kind of been all about the thing that I was wanting to, I kind of set everybody up for, and it was not intentional with the last video, and everybody thought, okay, well, he's talking about going solo. And anyway, I hope this is more satisfying. I hope you do this. I hope you read these things. Tinkerbell, Lone Voyager, Sailing Alone Around the World, awesome stuff. Get out there and this summer, do some solo sailing. I wish you well, and I wish you the best from Restoring a Little Girl. There is one thing I forgot to mention in this whole thing about soloing and single-handing. That is, I didn't mention it because I am right now facing this whole idea of taking a 23-foot fiberglass boat with a huge mainsail and sailing her for the first time solo coming up. But back in the day, back in 1990, 91, 92, 93, something like that, but during those few years, I had built a Clarissa, and she was a 12.5-foot Cape Cod oyster skiff. Built her from the ground up. I mean, every stick in her I built. And she was had a fine rig on her. I mean, I designed it and sailed it myself. And I did a lot of solo sailing aboard Clarissa, including just some really kind of epic sails aboard her, down the Narrows and around Grand and Little Island. I did that circuit twice, which is quite a distance for a skiff sailing. I sailed her out onto Nantucket Sound, all the way down to East Bay, and then back. And so, I mean, I've had a good bit of solo experience aboard Clarissa. But, you know, it's really funny. As much as I loved sailing Clarissa, and it felt completely doable, completely handleable, because of her size, you know, it's just different. And when you've got a mainsail up there that's like, oh my goodness, 4, 5, 6 times the size of the sail that was on Clarissa, wow. See, that's what I'm working on. I'm working on that courage thing and wanting to get a handle on this and say, no, Randy, you can do this. I mean, if you can sail Clarissa and do as much as you did all solo work on that, I mean, you know, you can handle a little girl. So, just saying. You know, I have very fond memories of sailing Clarissa up in North Bay, down to Cotuit. Anyway, all of that. I had just a whole lot of fun doing solo work that way. One of my fondest memories, believe it or not, is my daughter Amelia, as a young, oh my goodness, maybe 10 years old, no, maybe a little bit older than that, sailing with her. And she loved it, I tell you. I get her on board, and when we got ready to put things up, I'd be getting Clarissa attached to her mooring, and by the time I got back in the cockpit, Amelia had taken the main sheet and put it into a perfect, and I mean perfect, spiral right at the base of the dagger board. Love that kid. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. All right, guys, that's it. I just wanted to share that one little addendum here on the end, because I didn't want to make it sound like I hadn't done any solo work. I've done a lot. But again, it just feels different when you're in a 12.5-foot sailing skiff compared to a 23-foot, you know, sloop like Little Girl with a humongous sail plan on her. And so anyway, hey, wish me well. I'm looking forward to it. I'm determined I'm going to sail solo this summer. Guys, we'll catch you later. Bye.